Hello there, welcome to Ukrainian Media Podcast. I'm Olena Solodovnikova, and it's great pleasure to me to be joined by Szabolcs Vörös, a Hungarian journalist. Hello.
Hi there.
So I wanted to start with the global news. Hungarian Prime Minister held intensive talks with China and Brazil about peace summit between Ukraine and Russia. What goals does it pursue? What do you think?
Okay, maybe I have to start with some philosophical background when we talk about foreign affairs. So usually it's for domestic consume. So obviously the Prime Minister of Hungary, Mr. Orban, is with these suggestions, he's talking to his domestic audience, which is now shrinking because of some domestic dynamics in Hungary. So it's shrinking, so he has to portray himself as some sort of global player, which is a bit interesting if you consider the size of Hungary and its population and its natural resources. So, it's quite strange phenomenon that the leader of such a small country can be portrayed as a global player. I have serious doubts that he in fact is, but for the domestic audience, it's perfectly a very good pitch that, look, our prime minister is one of the world leaders and people are listening to his voice, which is, I would say, true, but, the next question, what that voice exactly is. So whatever strange ideas he's saying or he's suggesting, and I know it's been circulating in the Ukrainian media sphere quite intensively because he usually likes to talk about these global affairs, which affects Ukraine, of course, because it's the top of the agendas, obviously. So that's why you may see him as a bit bigger than he actually is. So I don't think that his current suggestion differs from the previous ones, which is that, immediate ceasefire and let's start peace talks as soon as possible. Of course, no one answers the follow-up question, even if there would be a ceasefire and even if by some miracle there will be peace talks, who would guarantee such a peace? I mean, Russia has violated at least 5 international treaties when it started the full-scale invasion in 2022. So no one answers these questions, who would guarantee or who should we make peace with? And who should be the negotiators, who should be the guarantors of safety for Ukraine? So I would say, as I started, that it's mostly for the domestic audience that the prime minister is a global player. And for us Hungarians, it's always sexy that the world knows the name of our prime minister and the world does not know the prime minister of Slovakia or Romania or whatever of our neighbors.
Yes, I know the another leader, the leader of Belarus, Lukashenko, who has ambition to be a peacemaker, and the same, he tried to provide his messages for domestic audience. But 3 years ago, he signed agreements in Minsk, so that was unsurprising for us.
Yeah, and peacemakers should enjoy the trust of both belligerents. So, and I have serious doubts that Hungary currently enjoys the full trust of Ukraine. So there are countries which can say they might enjoy trust of both sides, maybe Turkey, maybe some Gulf states, but certainly not Hungary.
Yes, but now Hungary, China, Brazil, France, and Switzerland will also participate this venue, if it will be, for the peace summit. Why are these countries interested in his proposition, in particular Brazil, which remain neutral? The alliances.
Well, I'm afraid that's for Brazil to ask. I mean, I extensively follow the trips and negotiations of our prime minister, but sometimes I I'm puzzled, why should we keep this intensive contacts with, I wouldn't say countries, I would say with leaders. So this is not genuine bilateral friendship between countries. It's rather who is the current friend of our prime minister. So of course Brazil was in the picture when Bolsonaro was the president. They were enjoying quite a mutual friendship. So I would say this is an ever-changing matrix, and I have to admit, when I don't know something, I have no rational explanation, why are these actual global middle or superpowers are interested in the ideas of our prime minister. Probably our prime minister has the luxury to say certain things those countries couldn't put on the table, because our prime minister can be harsh because his image is already damaged in the Western alliance. So maybe he is entitled to say some, let's say, some ideas which other countries wouldn't.
Definitely, I agree with you. And for the end of this topic, does Orban acting on his own will, or he's following instructions from Russia about this peace summit?
Well, certainly, if I had proof for the second option, this wouldn't be the podcast where I would, lay my cards that, I have some knowledge, some factual knowledge about this matter. So because we don't have it, we should start from the first idea, whether it is his ambition to act like a global player, and I think it fits to his image. So just until recently, his power was uncontested in Hungary for 14 years. So he had the luxury to abandon domestic affairs and shift towards the global arena, which he has been doing for the last decade, I would say. And we can see when there is a domestic contender like we are having now, it's quite difficult to him to turn back to those tiny, not important domestic affairs like Hungarian healthcare, Hungarian education. It's quite understandable. 2 weeks ago, you were dealing with global matters, and now you should deal with Hungarian domestic affairs. So the fact that he has certain suggestions, he's breaking consensus, he's the bad boy in the club, is fitting to his image. So I wouldn't suspect to any imperative from Moscow or elsewhere. It's his image as the troublemaker.
Yes, but yesterday, activist and member of opposition Democratic Coalition Party from Hungary interrupted Orban during the press conference in European Parliament, and then he spoke about the negative attitude towards migrants, and the words which this activist shot in was what will happen with one moment. How much did you sell the country for, Mr. Prime Minister? He sold out to Putin. He sold out to Xi Jinping. But my question is, what will happen with this brave activist in Hungary? Then will he be persecuted?
No.
No? You sure?
No, I'm sure. I mean, first of all, it happened in a foreign country's soil. So it happened in Strasbourg, France. So if it was a violation of rules, why would he be punished in Hungary and not in France? So I think that's standard procedure in the European Parliament. Political games and political performances are happening there all the time. We are speaking minutes after the presentation of our EU presidency plan in the European Parliament. There were some loudmouth MEP protesters even. So it's part of the routine there. And certainly that person won't be prosecuted in Hungary. Actually, part of the strategy of the Hungarian government is that we are not Belarus, we are not Russia. So, opposition figures should not be worried about anything. That's the communication for abroad, and certainly in some cases that's the reality. But the devil is in the details. So the state capture, the occupation of independent bodies, independent commissions of the country's democratic system. It happened during the last 14 years. So again, certainly this person shouldn't be afraid when he arrives back home to Hungary.
So you continue to play in democratic country with democratic values. And...
yeah, that's part of the game, and that's part of the facade. And in this regard, you cannot overstep certain lines if you want to stay in the European Union. So certainly, we see that when we overstep those lines, what are the repercussions? We are neglected to receive the EU funds, which is a huge issue and huge problem for the Hungarian economy currently. That's why we have to turn to China for some billion-euro loan. So yeah, we see the repercussions, but I think in the EU there are still some borderlines which even this Hungarian government would not overstep.
Yes, but nevertheless, Hungary has again blocked 35 billion euros in aid allocated to Ukraine, and Hungary want to agree to change sanctions on Ukraine frozen assets until US elections. How can things be changed after the US elections? How does Hungary depends on it? It will be flip-flopping. What is your focus?
Well, it's hard to tell. Certainly, this aid to Ukraine within the framework of the European Peace Facility is a poker chip on the table. We will see how the Hungarian government will play with it. There are some rumors that this will be part of the big bargain if there will be some agreement. And I personally believe that this veto should be given up sooner or later, because after a certain moment, it's just too painful for Hungary itself. So look at what happened with the economic assistance and the EU membership. Orban vetoed, but months later he came to an agreement. So or as the EU membership plan was voted, he went out to have a coffee. So sooner or later, the agreement is done. That's the whole point of the EU, that everybody is loud-mouthing, but at the end there is consensus. Otherwise, the whole community would be pointless. So I'm pretty sure that sooner or later, this peace facility veto will be abolished for some reward, which may never come to daylight, and we won't know about it, but that would be part of the deal.
Yes, and I want to just to ask you a little bit about the relationship with China, because you countries are to vote to imposing tariffs up to 45% to imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles for the next 5 years. But Hungary has become an important trade and investment partner of China, and some factories in Hungary provide Chinese electric vehicles. So what are the also another connections, economic connections, Hungary and China now?
Well, the importance of China is certainly growing within the Hungarian foreign trade. Although China is still at the 9th place of our among the partners, so they are still way behind European and transatlantic partners. Although the growth is well, it's quite emphatic, and questions should be raised, because in 2023, for instance, Hungary received 44% of all Chinese foreign direct investment into the European Union. that total sum was 6.8 billion. So the 44% of that came to Hungary. Part of that was the Chinese BYD electric car manufacturer you just recently mentioned. It's under construction, so it's not producing yet.
Oh.
There are a number of battery manufacturers. There is a huge one, the Kettle one. It's a huge facility still under construction. We have deepening ties with Huawei, which, you know, according to the European Union, carries some security risks. And of course, there is the Budapest-Belgrade railway line. That's a Hungarian, Serbian, Chinese project. And the idea is to move all goods from the ports of Greece towards Western Europe. That Serbia and Hungary should function as a gateway, some sort of arrival to the big ports of Hamburg and Rotterdam.
Yes, you're the new Chinese road.
Yeah,
actually.
Unfortunately, we don't produce silk. Yeah.
Oh.
So and there is this mysterious 1 billion euro loan that was taken this spring, which no one knows the details of because they are kept as state secret. So it's quite problematic to draw a clear vision of the nature of this growing interests of China towards Hungary. Because, you know, Hungary is the size of a middle-range Chinese city, so with the population of 9.7 million. So, according to the opposition, according to some experts, this is beyond rationality. But of course, the government keeps repeating that we should keep an open eye, not only towards the West, but towards the East, because the future, as they say, might fold out in the East. Well, you know, of course, no one knows whether this will be the reality. But of course, they are betting on the strategy that we should keep an open eye towards all directions, 360 degrees.
Yes, but that is about the economic neutrality strategy, probably. And have this tactic a real benefits for your economy to be between China and between you?
Well, as a Hungarian taxpayer citizen, I would say I haven't seen the benefit.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, there are serious concerns about, for instance, these battery factory giants, because they need gigantic amounts of fresh water and gigantic amounts of electricity, neither of which Hungary possess. Because we have certain rivers, but those waters are flowing through the country. I mean, we don't have you know, huge water reserves. So now the question comes, you know, how can we maintain the functioning of those battery factories? Not to mention the healthcare hazard among the people who are living around. So there were some protests, for instance, for this cattle manufacturer, because it's really a huge factory and they need tremendous amount of energy and fresh water. So and they are building the factory in one of the areas of Hungary where fresh water is in need. So actually that area is becoming half desert. So well, the rationality for me as an average citizen is hardly explainable. As a traveler who admires the Balkan, I will love when the Budapest-Belgrade railway line will be ready, because what was back then 8 hours towards Belgrade, now it will be 3.5 hours. So it's certainly okay. But, you know, you won't build a railroad for travelers. You build a railroad for moving goods.
Right.
So we will see whether it will pay off. Actually, all experts say that investment, that railroad won't pay off even within decades. And the prime minister himself admitted that the point is not whether it will pay off. The point is we should have it, and that's it.
So this is a political gesture to friendship with China, to give them hand for friendship, business friendship. And what about Ukraine in this meaning? Because probably 2 or 3 months ago, the Ukrainian school in Hungary was opened. And does it popular in reality, or it was just diplomatic gesture?
We are lucky, I mean, because I've been there this Monday, so 2 days ago. Yeah, so I have first-hand experiences, and this is really a landmark initiative. And I'm really happy that Budapest, my city, can be the home of this school. This is a bilingual school, Ukrainian-Hungarian, and the first as such in Europe, because no bilingual school was open for Ukrainian refugee kids. And from first grade to 11th, so full scale. And well, the Hungarian education system is a bit different. We attend school until the 12th grade. So from next year, whomever wishes to stay for the 12th year, they can stay after they completed the 11th year. So, but of course, no one can force those students who say we quit school after 11th year to stay. But certainly, the teachers are hopeful that many of them would stay on board. So 300 kids can study there. And according to the estimations of the director, there are altogether 10,000 Ukrainian kids currently staying in Hungary. So, of course, it's only 3% of all Ukrainian refugee kids, but, you know, it's a drop in the ocean, but at least the first step towards something which can be the routine. So it was really a nice place to be, and a nice experience to have, to finally see those kids back into offline education, because you know very well, you know better than I do, that, you know, 5 year without your friends, seeing them every day, shaking their hands, you know, teasing them, playing football with them, you know, it can cause serious consequences for kids. And the teachers told us that the first days were quite challenging, because precisely because of this, that kids came into an environment that was something alien to them because of that 5-year break. And you know, the experience of the teachers were that when they took their smartphones away from the kids, they were like in the middle of nowhere. They didn't know what to do, with whom to turn to, and you know, those first weeks were challenging, but now you know, things are moving ahead, and it's great to see. And they have a great facility there, so everything is there, and yeah, it's a nice example. And hopefully there will be some new schools opened in the same way, because personally, I think it's quite important to have some from the language which is around you, you know, because if you understand something, you can accommodate more easily. So that's the whole purpose of teaching Hungarian to them. Of course, it's a big challenge because of the difficulty of our language, but they are doing good.
Yes, I'm happy that it's a very smart decision, really, to bilingual school, and I'm happy that it's a realistic project, not only news statement, and you inspected it yourself. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, and could you elaborate a little bit about the help of Hungarians to Ukrainian, I mean, medical courses for military, and how it works, because in my logic, you should to be neutral, but you help militaries with medicine.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't elaborate the details because there is no communication at all about this issue. There are certain rumors that this project of training medical healthcare personnel for the Ukrainian army is ongoing, but no one knows the details of actually the way how we found out that there is something was through the Slovakian Minister of Defense back in March 2023. He's not in power anymore, but at that time he had a public discussion with the foreign minister of Slovakia. It was, not off record, but friendly meeting. And the Minister of Defense of Slovakia there said that, doesn't matter what you hear in the media, in the propaganda, Hungary is doing its fair share when it comes to the training of medical personnel, military medical personnel. And then Hungarian newspapers sent inquiries to the Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Defense answered to those requests. And I have a quotation which they wrote again March 2023. Quote, "We helped in the hospital treatment of wounded Ukrainian soldiers, and the Hungarian armed forces also participates in the training of Ukrainian military medical specialists for humanitarian purposes." End of quote. So this is the case from last year, but I would be surprised if this training stopped. It's just my guts tell me that this training is still ongoing. I have a personal memory. I was waiting for the train to Zaporizhia at the Mukachevo railway station. It was in sometime last year, I think in May. And there was a military medical specialist waiting for the train, and I could see the flag patch of the Hungarian armed forces on her shoulders. So, yeah, that was indirect proof that we do something which is kept in the dark for some mysterious reason, but something is going on.
That is very, very super news. The last question will be about that will be difficult, yes. You also believe that Hungary is not capable to take an advantage of Ukraine's weakness and annexing parts of our territory, yep?
I do.
And it should be stressed, these ideas are now being voiced by only radical politicians, of course, but it was the same with Crimea and Donbas. In this time, a few people talk about these ideas about Donbas with Russia and Crimea with Russia. But now we have a war and annexation. Why is it not profitable for Hungary to annex part of Ukraine?
As you said, this is not just a difficult question. It's a weird question to answer. Why isn't it? I mean, I really have to measure every single syllable when I answer this question. So you said economically not beneficial to occupy Ukraine.
If we're talking only about the occupation like a business, and we know that yes, it have a little bit possibility about annexation, Ukraine, some part of Ukraine, but Hungarian. If we, of course, we wanna, it's just it never happen. But is it profitable for Hungary to annex part of Ukraine or not?
Okay, so strictly theoretically, anyone who has ever stepped foot to Zakarpattia region can see the state of the roads, the state of the railway lines, the state of the infrastructure as a whole. So Hungary is unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, I think economically too weak to make that cohesion that would comfort the people who live there. You know, we are not rich enough. We are not Western Germany who made the contribution to Eastern Germany when they united. So I think, and it's a suggestion for our radicals as well, because we have radicals in Hungary too, that, you know, you should go to Zakarpattia once and first mission, find a person who speaks Hungarian, because for some mysterious reason we believe that people there speak Hungarian as a whole. They don't. It's below 10% now with those mass migration from Donbas and other areas towards Western Ukraine. And the second is that, you know, look around and ask yourself whether it would be a rational step in any way. But, you know, it's really a strictly theoretical question, and I feel a bit uncomfortable to continue this answer because one might draw improper conclusions from my words, and I wouldn't like that. So once again, we are not rich enough to create that cohesion that would be required to to invest to Ukraine.